Hey again. I appreciate everyone's patience while I reorganize my filming setup. I'm still toying with different ideas and looking at your feedback to help provide some better content. Someone had mentioned a green screen, and I might actually create some ideas that'll work with that. We'll see how far I get. Today's chat is a short... Nope. No, it's long. Long trip back to Further Confusion 2020. One of extremely few cons that took place prior to the pandemic, and one that I was very fortunate to attend, and will forever be looked upon as yet another turning point in my life that would not be if not for the fandom. If you all have not figured it out yet, I dove into the fandom fairly quickly. In the span of just over a year, I went from not having any interest in it whatsoever to attending my first con, immediately commissioning a fursuit, booking no less than 3 more cons, delayed until 2021 of course, and falling for a circle. Yeah, that's a lot. These early videos are sort of a chronological story of this, so if you have not already, please take a look at my previous 2 installations of Drakeley's Den. Also, this is likely my last video involving the story, as I will be focusing on more interesting to watch topics. We'll see how far I get, but I do have some interesting plans that I hope I get to play out. We left off on the last episode talking about the San Diego furries and how they impacted my life in a big way. It was through them that I learned about Further Confusion in San Jose, California, taking place in January 2020. No sooner did I saw its dates and that my ship would be moored in San Diego for that very weekend, I booked the last suite available from Thursday to Saturday night. I would later extend my stay through Sunday night too. The con was just too much damn fun to leave early. I mean, it seriously was too much fun. Since my career at the time was a sailor for the government, my life was difficult to, well, be a life at all outside of working or being tied to work in some way. Canceled plans and the inability to do much outside of work was my existence for many years. The catch being that it had afforded me the ability to do things and be places that I never would have without it. Bittersweet, if nothing else. However, I was fortunate to be spending a lot of time in the SoCal area, specifically San Diego. We had gotten there after circumnavigating the globe on that ship, and that had taken many months, many stops along the way. Since I spent so much time there, I thought that I would buy myself a car in order to keep myself sane. I'm into cars, by the way, but we'll get more into that in the future. To continue, it was just about a week to Further Confusion when we ended up being threatened with an imminent schedule change to Oahu, which would place us underway throughout the con. These sudden changes were not new, they were the norm, and it was ever frustrating to deal with. As the navigator, that meant that I constantly had to change routes in the Ectus, change the paper charts, adjust arrival and departure times, draft naval messages for these changes, make phone calls, and so on. Sometimes it was a quick change, but could very easily take up to an hour or more depending on the situation. Though I would be visibly frustrated, I had a job to do, and I got it done before all else. After all, doing things we don't want to is part of life, something that most of us are familiar with. This time was different. I had been on board for many months at this point with 0 days away from the ship. I was devastated and pretty furious. I broke the rule of mine that I was not to plan anything ahead of time for my personal life, and I was going to pay the price, both literally and figuratively. Most of all, I was upset with myself for doing that. I got off work the day all of this took place, got in my car, and drove as far east into the desert as possible until I was forced by time to return. I had been invited to grab dinner and some drinks with the captain, chief mate, and a few other officers. They knew how frustrated I was. What they did not know was what exactly I was going to do that weekend in the first place. However, I was lucky to have great leadership. The captain and the chief mate gave me the all clear to leave me behind and meet the ship in Oahu when they arrived there. I was ecstatic. It was as if the frustration was turned off with the flick of a switch. I could not thank them enough. As it was originally scheduled, we were to be underway up until the very afternoon of the very first day of the con. We were underway, and not 2 days before we were to arrive, the schedule change was cancelled, and we were to remain in port throughout the weekend. I was unbelievably excited at this point, visibly enthusiastic even. So we arrived as scheduled, and the gangway went down about 17:30 that evening, and I just about ran down that gangway to my car and set off. The drive to San Jose from San Diego was about 8 hours worth of mostly straight north on I-5. So I was able to make decent time, but still it was after midnight when I arrived. Working that full day and driving that long took its toll. I was exhausted. But I knew when I walked into the lobby that I was in the right place, that this was where I belonged. I promptly retired to my room, took down some good scotch, and passed out. The next morning, I was in for an awakening. So many things happening at once, I did not know where to begin. This was all new to me, don't forget. That I had not considered myself a furry barely a month prior. I decided that I would wander around and see what there was to see. And wow, was I underprepared. I felt myself being awkward, and the furs that I had known were yet to arrive, so I was solo for a while. I got a little overloaded and was headed back to my room when out of nowhere, I heard it. I heard this squeak. A squeaky squeak that sounds squeaky. I saw her alongside Scath. It was Telephone. I about froze. If you had not already figured it out, I am a big fan of the adorable phone, and I never thought I would actually meet her, let alone on the first day of my first con. After seeing her in front of the doors I had to walk through, I could not walk past. I was too excited. I had to go sit down. I took some time to collect myself and get over my social anxieties. I walked outside and very, very shyly asked for my very first fursuit hug from my favorite suitor. Having those squeaks directed at me was just too overloading. The connection between my mouth and my brain was not exactly working so well. And Eno, if you ever watch this, I am so sorry for being so awkward in that moment. Sensory overload is a heck of a thing. But then again, maybe you get that type of reaction often, and you're used to it. I decided to walk over to the Hilton bar for some food and a well-deserved beer. I sat myself down with my brain still on overdrive, and little did I know that next to me would be Beatrix, a Trixie Spider Bunny. She's the cutest spider bunny you'll ever see. We ended up chatting about the con, how we both ended up there, and apparently my story was very intriguing. The entire time I was talking, she was doodling, and before I was any the wiser, she presented me with this. We met by sheer chance, and she was able to take from what I was saying and create the then-to-be Drakeley on the spot. I had no persona up until that point, only a general idea. But Beatrix generously drew what I could not yet see for myself. I am forever grateful and thankful, and I hope that one day you get to meet me. As Drakeley, of course. At this point, I had a persona without a name. So my brain started working. The following day, I was walking to the con space, and it hit me. Drakeley. I had a sauna, and now I had a name. Now, all of this may not seem interesting nor significant at all. However, when I think about how many moving parts were involved over the length of time involved, it changes my perspective a bit. If any one of those things was different, I would not have been there at all. Having said that, the best was yet to come. Remember when I said that I ended up falling for a wedge? Well, we met at this very con. We had chatted prior since he was going to take my room had I not been able to be there because of my ship's schedule. We still wanted to meet up since we would both be there, so we did. I was hanging out with a few other furs in my room pre-gaming for the night when he knocked on the door. I swear on my life that not 30 seconds after he arrived, I knew something was right. I never really thought I could find a guy attractive until I met him. Needless to say, it was in short order that I fully crushed on myself and accepted what I had known for many years, and that was that I'm not straight. This being my first con, I was being pulled in so many different directions at once, so much to see and do. The party floor alone deserves a video, but what happens on the party floor stays on the party floor. Countless dealer's den visits, room parties, panels, dance competitions. Gee, watching the dance comp was such a cool experience, and I wish I could watch it again to get those oh so sweet nostalgia feels. Now, I think I've had y'all for long enough, so I'll end it here. A major takeaway from this is that I went very far out of my comfort zone and started a new chapter in my life. Comfort zones are great, however, it's just beyond them that we actually learn to live and where great things happen. I want to thank y'all for listening to my story. As boring as it might be for most, it's important to me. But please like, share, and subscribe. The best is yet to come. Until next time, stay safe, be happy, and of course, be yourself.